Hi, today I want us to talk about interior design, and first of all just welcome a very special group of guys who've just finished campus and at different colleges. We are in a season where they are transitioning from college to the marketplace, and I thought probably we can talk a little bit about interior design, what it takes to be a designer, the opportunities that are available in the market. This is for them and also for you who you could know someone who is interested in pursuing interior design, or just for the knowledge of it, because you never know when you may need it. So my name is Monica Malakwen. I'm an interior design expert, and I help convert interior spaces into functional and beautiful places to work and to live in. Welcome to Indulgence Blueprint, for your simple interior design lessons to help you become your own interior designer. Let's get started, shall we? What is it like being an interior designer? It's a question that I've gotten a lot of times. You're wondering, really, what does it mean to be an interior designer? And today I'm going to look at a daily routine of an interior designer. Applies to me and applies to most of all other designers. Times vary. What I'm going to talk about will vary depending on, of course, your level of experience and what you do exactly in the company that you work in. It could be your own company. It could be, where you're employed. It varies greatly. It also varies on your exact role, on your exact experience, but a general outline so that we just get to see how the day runs for an interior designer. So some of the roles that an interior designer will undertake in a company, most of the time, of course, being the main role being to design, that is to make drawings. But before you get to make drawings, there is the aspect of visiting the site and getting to know exactly what the client wants. That means you're taking the client's brief. So the first step of any project would mean taking the client brief. You visit the site, you take measurements of the site, you take special features that are available on that site, and then you sit down with the client and get a description of what they would want to, use the space you're looking at for. Once you have that brief, you will come back to the office, you will draw out the space into a layout to capture the client's needs. Then you'll go into the 3Ds, to just visualize for the client in pictures what they expect to see when the space is complete. You need to make a presentation to that client, because you may understand your design, the client doesn't, unless you help them through the process, and therefore you do a presentation. When you do the presentation, you show the client the exact steps. The client could have questions, you answer them, and then once you have captured, the feedback from the client, again, you'll go back to the drawing and amend, so that by the time the project starts, you are aligned with the client. In some cases, and again, depending on the structure of where you work, this project could move from design to implementation. If you're a consultancy firm, you will end there at the design, in terms of design, and then you'll go into the details. But then if you do implementation, that becomes the next step, where you're not doing the details, the BQs, and everything else. And we will talk about that in the future. So for now, a day, you have gone to site, you've taken the measurements. The first step would usually be in the morning, 8 a.m. Most of the time, you will come into the office, check your mails, review what's on your desk, and plan the day ahead. At around 9 a.m., what we would normally do is have a meeting, especially if you're collaborating on a project. Touch base, get to understand where everybody is with what they are doing, and set goals for the rest of the day and exactly what you want to achieve on that day. And then you go immediately into your work and start working and, focus. It's a very good thing to dedicate time to completely focus on whatever you're doing. So if it's that project, just give it a few hours where you really focus on it, and then probably break for lunch, back to the project. Towards the end of the day, probably about 30 minutes towards the end of the day, you take that time to review what you've been able to do, report to your line so that they know exactly where you are at the project. You review the timelines, and then you are able to know whether you are going to meet deadlines. It's very important to note that unless you meet your deadlines as a designer, you are going to really miss out, because clients work on very, very tight timelines, and therefore they expect of you that you are going to actually deliver on those timelines. There are times that you could have to work extra hours, sometimes even overnight. I mean, creatives are very familiar with this. There is a lot of pressure. I'll be quick to add on that. There is a lot of pressure in the design market, and therefore you need to be able to accommodate that and be able to deliver to the client in the right time. But if you get to plan your work well, interior design is a fun job. You get to explore your creativity. You get to visualize, and implement and help other people, in this case our clients and even our employers, if we have one, to we welcome them into our creative world, and they can be able to see what we envision. And the joy of every designer is usually to see their designs implemented on site. Yes, so we're talking about a very exciting career. Get excited about it too. In the next few sessions, we're just going to talk about some of the opportunities that are available in the market. We are going to look at some of the challenges, what it takes for you to be a good designer, and what you can actually be able to do to merge, to fit into the market, and you are going to experience a lot of fulfillment being an interior designer.